We need anti-racist education to understand, to take accountability for, and to redistribute the social, political, and cultural capital that we have as white people. This capital comes from institutionalized racism and legacies of colonialism. How this capital shows up in the trade union movement is through access to positions, resources, relationships, feeling comfortable in spaces, feeling like we belong. Black colleagues don't usually have that experience. What this means in practice is that we need to learn when to step forward and learn when to step back.
We need anti-racist education because someone has to show and prove to our students that their voices matter, that their voices have a history, troubled and beautiful, and foundational to the world we all live in now.
We need an anti-racist education because there are too many myths which people believe about race and racism in the UK. Our curriculum likes to teach about racism abroad and say that Britain is a tolerant nation, but the effects of our colonialism and our imperialism, both at home and abroad, resoundingly disprove this.
Anti-racist educators, particularly white males, need to embrace a radical openness about being called out for their whiteness and other areas of their privilege, whether it's manifested through their personality or their practice.
Nobody is born racist, and that's exactly why we need an anti-racist education system. If we're going to eradicate racial inequality in our society, it needs to begin with the very building blocks of what we learn. That means we need to start with addressing our very shameful past, slavery and colonialism, and understanding why it's led to our very shameful present, the systemic racism faced by Black, Asian and minority ethnic people in this country today. We then need to be willing to inform and inspire the next generation to understand why they can't allow these ignorant attitudes to continue in the future.
What does anti-racist education look like? There has been some amazing work around decolonising the curriculum and looking at the content of what is taught in lessons. However, one area that I've seen profound effect on young people and on people within the school institution is the hidden curriculum and symbolic violence, and the thousands upon thousands of microaggressions that young people from particular groups feel every day, and these build up to a profound effect.
Racism is a tool of control that has no place in our education system. School should be a place where everyone is free to learn and grow and is supported to do that in the ways that work for them. That if you are struggling, that you will be supported and not excluded or punished for that. That your emotions are welcome and that they are not something to be controlled and that they are not something that in themselves are harmful, but that they will be listened to and that you will be listened to.
To do this, we need to make sure that it's not just something that's added on at the end of a lesson, something that's done one day a week, or something that's even left to 1 month in the year. It has to be an integral part of every single section of our curriculum.
Being an anti-racist educator as a white person is quite different to being an anti-racist educator as a black or brown person, because the first thing that you're going to need to grapple with is the relative privilege and power that you're going to have in your institution as a white person and how you're going to level that power. And that means that you might be speaking out about things that black and brown people in your institution might simply not be safe to speak out about. That means thinking about the power dynamic in your classroom or in your lecture hall if you are the white teacher of black and global majority students. It means thinking about if you're disciplining those students, if you're managing their behaviour, how are the racial power dynamics of your institution, of our white supremacist society, playing out within that. It means that you probably need to have quite uncomfortable conversations with white colleagues who often don't want to talk about race, who often don't want to talk about the role that race is playing in their classroom and in all of our classrooms, because we are all working within a white supremacist society. So being a white ally as a white anti-racist educator, it means centering race all the time and recognising that you might need to speak up even when it might not be safe for your black and brown colleagues to do so.
And how is that sustainable? It's sustainable because we look at the goals that we're trying to achieve. It's about people feeling comfortable in social groups to talk about issues of race, to talk about issues related to social injustice, and to feel comfortable doing so.
For me, becoming an anti-racist educator is all about doing the work that I never got told to do when I was at university or when I've trained as a teacher. It means reading Audre Lorde, Claudia Rankine, Dana Smith, and many others.
How do we become lifelong anti-racist educators? For white educators, this means listening, learning, but most importantly, it means putting that learning into practice. It means changing our curricula. It means changing our behaviour policies. It means changing our staff structures and hierarchies. It means changing how we grade students. It means changing our uniform policies if you still have them. It will be uncomfortable. We must deal with it.